answers. I got no assignments except from Ray. And here we are. And I got another one that's going to take 5 or 6 hours to get ready for next week. And we're not even getting one thing done. So I don't know what to do. What do you guys want to do? Eliezer, what do you want to do?
Well, I want to go ahead. For me, the class that we had last meeting, my question is ready. I thought we are going to read it.
Nope, it's exactly on the paper. If you read it, it says return by the 23rd of November.
Yeah. But the second exam, I have no time to look at it and just caught up by time and my schedules. I'm sorry with that. But I will do the best.
You've already missed one session. Teo, what do you want to do?
Our connection here is very, we have a problem, our internet, no connection.
Yeah, well, what about?
But I have read, but I wasn't able to write about the answer your questions about, you have just written about discuss about the counselor, what to bring, then counseling, what to bring, and then situation counseling, then about explain the maladaptive. I wasn't able to write and to mail it to you.
Rochelle, what do you want to do?
Still working for the assignment, sir.
Well, here we are. You're already behind. Everything is all behind. And now that I give you, if I go with another assignment today, that's going to be another 4 or 5 hours you're going to have to do extra somehow to get these assignments done. And it's hard to find. I don't know if you understand how serious this study is. And it's got to take some attention. And I told you before we started, it's going to take an hour a day to do this class. You're going to have to put in an hour a day. Whatever you want to do, it's going to take an hour every day. And so far, I haven't seen any effort except for Ray, but it was complete.
He will lead our servants, not master.
No,
what's that?
To serve. And to serve.
I'm going to ask again, Lot, what do you want to do?
Effectively, if we are lording, we need
Pastor Richel, your audio is very loud.
Jesus.
Ako.
And I believe it is
ikaw?
also just like a family.
It's Wade.
It's
Wade.
Like character of the
If
church.
there's things that are going too fast or anything like that, slow me down. Just say, I can't keep up. Because taking these notes are very important.
Or in the Lord.
And right now, you guys have,
your leadership will be failure
notes.
if you fail to sit on and win your family first in leading
Hello, Sir Wayne.
Christ.
Okay.
If you are a brilliant preacher,
There's a problem now. The
and you have a
internet, we
doctorate,
can't hear you.
and a
We
master
can't hear
degree,
you.
I'll tell you what, I'll go through today.
my kids or
And if I
children,
don't see an improvement, I'm not going to be doing
first
it.
things first.
Because,
It's your family.
Hey, Sir Wayne,
because
we cannot hear you.
If
You
your
could
wife
miss-
will be happy,
the,
the church will will be happy.
Who's talking? I don't know.
Conquer the world in leading in
We cannot
Christ.
hear you, Sir Wesley, because of
Work and
the
ministry
audio,
is serving our King.
of the audio from Sir Wayne.
What?
We cannot hear you because of the audio from Sir
Our
Wayne's
leadership
room.
is equated with lordship.
He
Well,
played a
God
video and
to be,
the audio was
to be
is captured by his mic.
reminded that in ministry, the byword is
That
not
sound is
lordship,
from
but
Wayne's brother
servanthood.
Wayne's room.
The sheep is always look up to the shepherd for feeding and direction. And our greatest example is our great shepherd
That
okay,
is
I'll
the
tell you
voice
what.
of
who
Pastor
came
Richel.
not to be served
I will go
but
ahead
serve
with today.
and always be biblical,
And
depend on God.
What they say on the Zoom deck, you wish say?
Kindly
will
chat,
go
Sir Wayne.
by your example.
I want all the
Christ is with those
past week's
Di
lessons.
man mayo ang connection
I
niyo.
want them on
not
the
with
email
those
so
who
I can
sit
grade them. Last
and
week
waiting
and this
to
week
be served.
has
Matthew
to be
10,
done by next
Matthew
week.
20, 25 to
If I
28,
don't have them by
Luke chapter
Wednesday,
22,
I'm not going to be
22
doing
to
it anymore.
27.
I don't know
Christ-like
if it's
leadership
clear, but
is
you
not
can't get
dominating
behind
others.
because this is
Mark
important stuff.
10,
You're
42
dealing with people's lives and
45.
their ability and
Testimony.
skills. I've asked for questions,
Priorities.
and I don't see any questions.
As a family.
I'm trying to get you to
Let's
begin
have
to
that.
think, because if you get into counseling, you don't have a lot of time. You got to just be able to just respond. Yeah.
Okay.
What is it, Lot?
I just
Okay, we'll try to pass.
signed the thumbs up to Sir Wayne.
And this here is counseling is what they call a discipline, and that's exactly what it is. And you got to be able to do it. And some of you may not do much with this in your life, and some of you may do a lot. But I'm preparing you the best I can as I know and from experience. And you can't do this. It's not like what you've been doing. You take a class, and I know from some of the colleges in the Philippines, they never give tests. They don't do anything. So I think some of them are better than they used to be. But my experience is they don't cover all this. And another thing that I want to mention here that you need to get a resume or a transcript to to Wayne. You need to get a transcript so he knows what he's dealing with. Because I've been told that, oh, we have had all that study, and I'm tired of hearing it because we don't know. We can't read your mind, and we don't know. So he needs to get that done. All right, but this will be my caution that I need to see things by next week, by next Wednesday, last week's assignment and this week's assignment. And I'll send you one today, another one, so that means you're going to be 2 weeks behind by next week, and it's up to you. But this is not an easy thing. All right, but if I'm going along and you don't understand, just say something. I don't want you talking to each other about anything that was said or anything else, because you can mislead each other. If you don't understand, you can't tell somebody else something you don't understand. You understand what I'm saying? That's important. So you don't talk to each other about it. And if you got a question or anything, see me. And that'll work out a lot better. Well, I'm gonna get going, and because I gotta drive 2.5 hours after we're done to be with my kids. And they're supposed to feed me, but I can't eat because I don't have any teeth. So All right, where did we leave off?
Wes, go down and click on your camera so they can see you.
The camera's not on?
No, go down in the lower right, left-hand corner and start the video. There you go. There you are. Do we know
Okay.
where Teo went?
Huh?
You lost Teo. Do we know where Teo is? Anybody know?
No.
Okay. I'll
Hello, signal.
send him a text. All right. Go on, Wes.
Okay, well, I'm not getting anything on this microphone. I don't know why.
Yeah, we hear you.
Okay. All right. Okay, where did we leave off? I'll just go down to page 3 at the bottom
Yeah.
there.
The counseling and the counselor.
You start, I got there the starts. When you take a diagnosis, you got any, okay, you ready for note taking?
Hey, Sir Wes.
Diagnosis, when you come up with what you believe it's going to, what the problem is, you want to make sure, you got to be sure. Just say, when I'm doing this and I'm talking to somebody and I look at what I think, what I've written down, and then I say, are you sure? Because I want to make sure I got the best that I can have, because now I'm going in a direction. And if I'm going in a direction, it could be useless or helpful. And this reminds me, next week, when you gather, make sure that I get to see your notes.
Okay.
That's going to be very important. You don't take notes, you're in the wrong class. So you want to be very careful about making a decision and a diagnosis quick. You don't do that very quick. Sometimes I don't really make it till the second or third meeting. I set up generally, God has blessed me that I work within six sessions with a person. Depends on what they have, but sometimes 1 hour and they're okay. But if it's a problem and a family thing, I usually do 6 weeks. But I don't set a direction sometimes until the second week, because I want to listen and I want to find out where they're at before I set a diagnosis. Is Rochelle and Ray with me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. What's the J on there?
Jessica.
White TV. I don't know what that is. Okay. You want to make sure that you've got, on the first meeting, you want to make sure you have a pretty good questions to draw out a lot of answers. And sometimes you can't finish and go to the next one until you've had a diagnosis on the first one. I diagnose every session. I'll maybe spend 30, and when they leave, I'll spend maybe 30, 40 minutes on my notes just to be sure that I'm right and I understand and I wrote down good, because I can't remember all this stuff. And then you're going to be trying to help your knowledge of what to do with these people is and is there any abnormal areas in their what they're telling me? I pick up any abnormal thing. One of the things that'd be good for you, and I have an assignment that you check. You've got time and just spend about 30 minutes a day or less on the internet with the Philippine situation. One of my reports that I got on the internet in the Philippines is 60% of Filipinos are abnormal. Now, it did go down to one of the psychologists or psychiatrists in Manila was that he had 45%. And there's a lot of things that we can discuss on that. And some of that, but there's a big difference between Manila and the Visayas. And one of the reasons is a lot of people leave the island, go to Manila, and one report had that those in Makati, there's more people goes to counseling in Makati than it does the island. Why is that? It's because they leave a barrio where they had where everything was fine, family, all that. They go to Manila, and it's hard to make that adjustment for some going to Manila to find a job. And that's why a lot of girls, that's why you find in Manila thousands of girls in prostitution, thousands. And they can't adjust, and they can't make that adjustment because they're not ready for it. And Makati's a whole different place. Y'all been to Makati? It's a whole new kind of world. So there's a lot of things in back of this, and that's why I know some that went to Manila and went back. I know in Bacolod, I met several that went to Manila and then back to Bacolod. They couldn't take and work in Manila. And so one of the things I want to observe when I'm talking to somebody is their complaint from depression, anxiety, or they're just unhappy.
Okay.
And sometimes people, sometimes
Di na maganda, Adri. Ma-recover.
what?
Yeah, ba? Before. Okay.
You speak there.
Did you ask me a question?
No.
Oh, I just didn't understand.
Sir Teo is just asking his companion there in their house.
What'd you say?
Brother Teo is speaking only to his companion in his house, the one who put him into the Zoom.
Oh. Okay, so the next thing I want to look at when I'm talking with them, and I find, is it depression, anxiety, unhappy? See, the thing about one thing you want to watch, a lot of things about counseling and people have an emotion, or there's a problem, you want to be sure that it's just not unhappy. I have several people in the Manila area that email me almost every day. Well, I get an email every day, but there's one girl, I don't know, she's not 30 years old, but she emails me about twice a month. Boy, it's when you read the email, it's almost like the end of the world.
Ban. Betulnya. No connection. No connection.
No, you're connected.
Hello?
Hi.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Yes.
didn't know if I was asking a question or what. But anyway, this girl I'm talking about, when she emails me, it's the end of the world. Mama is holding me back. She won't let me do it. She's past 25, I think. And boy, it's the end of the world. She goes on, and the email is long. I mean, we're talking, I don't know how many words. It's a long email. It takes me about 10 minutes to read it. The thing about it is, in 2 days, I'll email back and say, I think everything's fine. And it's just that time where she's unhappy at living at home. She can't afford to move out. There's a lot of things there, but this happens. It's been going on for about 2-3 years, and but there's times of unhappy, and so you have to be very careful. You're not going to give any advice, because if she goes to mama or any of the family, she may create more problems. Just let them go. I just listen and just say, I hope things work out. That's my response. I'll read for 10 minutes, and then I just say, I hope it works out. Just relax, or just a few thoughts, and let it go, because it's just an unhappiness at that time. And a lot of us, almost everybody, has those moments where they have a moment of depression, or they have some other kind of fear or a crisis. And sometimes it doesn't last 5 minutes, and sometimes it's a couple days. So you want to be sure what you're dealing with. And on my next thought there, on page 3, is B, interview. So you want to work on getting information. If you do see a problem, and this is where you have to come up with questions. That's why I tried to get you to write me a list of questions so that I can direct those what's appropriate and the right way to say it. And so those questions are very, very important. So you have to be prepared to ask questions. Do you know the difference between objective and subjective?
Yes.
Okay. And by the way, I bought all of you a dictionary or a thesaurus. And yeah, I said thesaurus. I got each of it, but it's going to be 3 months before it gets there. So the thing that I'm saying is that you want to look and make sure, is this complaint or this problem now a serious matter or not? Is it subjective? And what can I do to get it to be objective? Because subjective, I just call it a lot of times a pity party. You know what I mean by pity party? You know, somebody
Yeah.
wants pity. You know that word?
Yes.
And so they're just wanting some sympathy, some hugs
Yes.
or whatever. And but then if they we're looking at it from a pity party, I got to work it out now to where I can decide, is this important? How important? And I can help guide them through that to get them to thinking a little bit more positive or objective. That's one of the big areas when I work up there with the welfare department in Manila, is getting people to think into a positive way. They don't have a lot of problems, but they don't know what to do about certain things and their feelings. And that's because they're inadequate prepared. And so we have to stop and think about that. Oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you, I think, be sure and read one proverb every day. That's an assignment. Read a proverb every day. I don't know if we'll get some, but I got some here we're going to work with. Wow, time's a flying. But one of the things that you want to do that I mentioned in your interview is find out where the negative area is. And sometimes that person, maybe I can finish them in one more session, and maybe I can do it within the next hour. Because them the feelings and that emotion. And also I bought each of you a book titled Emotions by a Christian counselor. And may help you a little bit, but a lot of times things are just on a person's emotions. The next thing I want to just mention briefly is that listening. Listening. And a lot of things when I'm listening, I'm also looking at their body language. Their body language sometimes tells me different things. How they're, do you know what I mean by the idea of wringing their hands? Can you see me? Now, some of that may be because being in front of you, that makes them nervous, but also it may be they're giving you their particular view. See, they want to maybe, especially when they're complaining about somebody else. And so it may be just their view. Again, it's just another pity party. I want you to feel sorry for me. I want you to see my view. Is Ray out there? Ray?
Sir.
When you are talking there, you want to be sure that you're ready to be committed to that and to listen to them, not just like, okay, go ahead and speak. You want to make sure that you're ready for all that. Did I mention before about maladaption?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And that sometimes if you get that understood well, because maladaption is basically, there's a lot of things that can be said, but it's, the main thing is to decrease pain. Do you hear that? Did you hear that noise?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that was loud. But anyway, but the maladaption, if you get and understand the maladaption, a lot of times you can help somebody within an hour or maybe 3 hours. So, but that I would say to concentrate on understanding maladaption. The next thing there does have tests that sometimes I give people tests, and those tests would be especially I'll assign them a proverb or maybe some other thought that Jesus said. And then when they get back with me, I ask them to before they come back, to write down on a piece of paper what they got out of that proverb or that that statement that Jesus made, and that will help you a lot, because sometimes they will discover themselves what is the problem, and is it significant or is it a serious matter? Consultations, and there's something there that I feel like somebody else could do it better, and I'll look for a doctor or another preacher or somebody else, and it may be even a family member. But I'm very particular about that family member, because sometimes a person will have a favorite family member, and that family member for them is a wisdom, a wise person that they trust. So don't hesitate sometimes to let them help out, or you could go to them and ask a question or something about that person. There's a lot of things, and so don't consider yourself the magnificent counselor that doesn't need any help. And because I use a lot of people sometimes in counseling a situation. Excuse me, it's very important that you don't consider yourself that you're the only one that can do it. And this studies that we're doing, believe me, you are far from understanding this whole area, because there's so many areas to counseling that you don't want to set that because you go through this study here with me or anybody with it, any kind of study like this, that you have all the answers. You won't. And don't think you do, because you're going to fall. Continuing process, you just you're continually looking on how you're going to work with the people and how to process. That's why I spend a lot of times, maybe anywhere from 40 minutes, 30, 40 minutes to an hour on evaluation. And my files, the files I have down for a person, and then I have an evaluation sheet that goes with my files, because I keep a record of everybody that counsel with. One of the things that I learned when I was going to school for my doctorate, I was 2 courses away. Well, 1 course and a paper. It was like 40 pages of paper, and also checking the Greek and Hebrew, a test for that, and because you would have to take that course if you couldn't pass it. But anyway, I met a young man there, and he's become a lifetime friend on counseling. And one of the things is that he developed a way of thinking about evaluation and to check on the process. And he made, I don't have the paper, he made a nice piece of paper, 1 sheet, that he checks on himself. It has that paper for every person where he can evaluate it, and it's on the paper, and then he can refer to it and see what he needs to do differently. So, okay, there should be another section there under that where I got that circle there on the right side of the paper. This is about going to take up our time here. Next, I got there, the diagnosis is followed by evaluation. And that becomes important that you don't take for granted, because you want to keep, one of the reasons why diagnosis and evaluation is so that you can keep on the right target and shift. If you need to stop your approach and smoothly transfer that over to another direction or thought. Sometimes on the second or third session, I find I don't think what I believe is working, and I have to have another direction. Because sometimes you think, how shall I counsel them? Well, I got 2 ideas. I got 3 ideas. And which one, because if you shift to another direction, it may be confusing on them. So what I want to do is I want to evaluate it and look and see what I came up with. And there may be a time where I could change that, because sometimes your search for the leading them to be sufficient is a real issue. And sometimes that you have to really work on this, especially if it's a family deal, a husband and a wife. Anyway, you gotta figure out here what kind of a relationship do we have. So one of the things that, especially in a family, the mom and dad have this idea, then that's for then everything on those ideas is for the children. But not all children are going to be the same. So we have to make sure we understand we're in a family for a child, say like there's 4 children. All 4 of them may have different thoughts, different ambition, everything. Now, have you ever heard a mom and dad say, well, they're not like their brother, they're not like their sister? That don't mean anything to an individual, because each individual would have his own ambition, and they need to be helped and not starved. In other words, what we're discovering is a child sometimes has a good awareness about himself. I know a lot of times a child is in trouble. He's rebellious. He's not, so the mom and dad say, well, he's not like his brother. And so that doesn't mean anything, because that child may be aware of himself that the parents aren't aware of. Just because the parents say, do this because look at me because I've done good. Look at me, I'm a preacher. That don't mean a thing. Don't mean a thing. That's not the greatest thing in the world, but well, in a way it is. But it's something there when you're dealing with a family. And so you have to consider each person's self-awareness. And that sometimes is a lot of the problems that within a family. Okay, we got 4 or 5 minutes here. I'll go through this section on the right of that circle. I got their referral. And that becomes pretty important. So, because one of the things is you need to have a doctor or a counselor or somebody or a close friend, maybe a cousin, somebody that can help that you would refer to. And here we are, counselor, yourself or others, and it's got to be an honest choice. Collaboration, and that would be to get others to help in a joint effort. You're asking others to help. Number 3, there's special services. Sometimes there's different things that goes on in a community, and there's other things that can help. I know we have like boys clubs, girls clubs, and I know sometimes some counselors have given to boys clubs, give somebody a referral to go there. My throat's terrible. Number 4 is a consultant. We need to work with others, and this can also be spiritual. The Bible teaches that we do have our brothers and sisters. 5 would be, there could be a family member, a wise, smart uncle, a cousin. Number 6, cooperation. That is a relationship with others to take over. Sometimes I just get to a point where I don't want to go anymore. I think somebody else can do a better to finish up with them. And basically, if I think it's going to be a long time, I'll get somebody to be maybe like a friend or somebody that they can talk to, and go from there. No big thing. I'm just a human being, and I don't have all the answers, and I don't know everything, and I do what I can. But then there's times where I can see it's going to take a lot of my time, so I refer them maybe to a cousin, an uncle, or whoever it might be. And so, wow, our time is running out. I'm going to email you here in a few minutes on the assignment for November 26th. Now, in order to continue, I'm not kidding, I want to see the work from last week's assignment and also this new one. So that's 2, because if it's not going to do, I'm not going any further, because this here becomes important. One of the things about it when you counsel, you have to be a disciplined person yourself the best you can. You're only a human being, and you need, there's a lot of things you need to be And if you cannot do these things, then you can't counsel anybody on how to do it. Because you got to be people that make things happen. And that's what, especially in the Philippines. And that's why a lot of people in the counseling needs are high in the Philippines. I could have gotten a job with the welfare department not Makati, in Manila, and because they're pretty much asking for help because the need is so great, and so it's a challenge. But I will email this to you. It'll be under November 26th, and be the schedule for that's going to be happening next week. So you owe me 2 weeks of assignments, and then the new week. So that means you've got 3 weeks of assignments next week. It's going to be a lot. I told you it's going to be at least an hour a day you need to spend on this. You need to correct your notes. You need to look your notes over. You need to understand. And then you want to write down on a separate paper of questions to ask me what I meant or what you didn't understand. I will take as long as you need to get, because this is serious stuff, and I don't want to mislead you, and I don't want you to mislead Filipinos. This is serious stuff, and you could mess somebody up. I often sometimes, well, I went to a counselor and he said all this. I say, well, it hasn't worked. You're back here with me. And so I have to get that, what they learned from somebody else out of their life, out of their mind, because I'm not going anywhere with them if they don't. And so what they'll do is they'll compare what you say with others. And that is not good. I guess it's time to quit, Wayne. Is that right? I quit at 9 o'clock.
Yeah, you can quit at 9 o'clock, although you were a little late. If you want to move on, if you want to take another 10 minutes, I don't think they'll mind. All right. If you got something you want to wrap up. So.
All right. Let me go into another. Is that okay, you guys?
Okay.
Okay.
I'm seeing head shake, so go ahead for a few more minutes, all right?
I'll go to the next section. I'd like to get it in.
I will not sleep.
Huh?
I will not sleep on you.
What?
Go ahead.
Okay. The next section I got is there are 4 areas to help with continual evaluation. The deal is that the dignity of a person, is centralized through human experience. What I mean by that is that sometimes, well, often people live by what they've learned from experience. They also learn some things. I don't put this as a high priority or high contribution, but also from friends and family. Often people get more information from friends than they do to family. And then they'll take that and put that with the experiences they have. And that's why sometimes people are where they're at. They don't believe in God. They have a lot of problems. And This is where they develop their ethics. They develop their ethics in the 5 different areas that I had down. One is religion, ideology. Well, number 1, religious ideology. Number 2, their moral codes. MORAL. If I don't speak well, because I don't have teeth, have me repeat it. I want you to understand everything that I say. Number 2 is moral codes. Number 3 is intelligent limitations. What's the limit that they live by? What they develop their own codes, and so what is the limit of their codes? Remember, the main heading of this. Remember, developing their ethics. Number 4 is freedom. What is it they call freedom, and what is it they want in freedom? How do they look at freedom? Number 5 is controlling their emotions. And you can further that study on, and it's a good study. It's a book by James Dobson titled Emotions. That'd be a big help, I think, for you. Okay, the 4 areas to help with continual evaluation is their love. There has to be love. And so you want to find out what is their view or their concept of love from their mature position. Are they mature enough to understand that? And because their love, the way they have it, may be normal. I remember 4, 5, 8 years ago or something, talking with when I first started doing some things in Manila, and I was talking with a young girl, and they were talking about sex, and she says that's what Filipinos are do this. They start young, all kinds of things about sex, and said that's the way it is, and it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be. And I've worked a lot with that now in the last 10, 12 years, and that because it's not necessarily normal according to who? Who would be my guide on that? His name is G.O.D. Anything else on many things in life, especially in those areas, is that's not normal. It's environmental, or it's influenced by a code within a country or a location or whatever, but it's not necessarily normal. Normal feelings, yes. Normal reaction of man and woman, yes. But it's not necessarily normal in God's eyes because it's not the standard he goes by, and that's what's normal for us. But not the world, because the world has their own view of that. When these four areas of that love, rapport, compassion, and understanding are gone, then there is a breakdown in commitment, and God is out of the picture. When all of these here, love, rapport, compassion, understanding, breaks down, then you have a break with God.
Okay.
Just as a few thoughts, Proverbs chapter 1, verse 8 and 9. Proverbs 1, 8 and 9. Proverbs 6, verse 20. Proverbs 10, verse 1. And for a counselor, the thing about it is, do you see them responding to you negatively or subjective or objective? Is this what I want? This is one thing that I'm saying about the Filipino, that, of course, if you don't believe in God, you'll believe anything. That's Wesley's interpretation. So that becomes very important. So, and
Okay.
huh?
Come again, sir?
What'd you say?
Come again about if you don't believe on God.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
You
But,
made,
Yeah,
you
just
made
go
a
ahead.
comment, Wes, about not believing in God.
yeah. What was that again, Wayne?
He asked, you made a statement about when not believing in God, and then he didn't catch what you said after that.
I said, but if you don't believe in God, you will do about anything according to your feelings or your emotion. Because outside of God, there's no rules or no any guidelines. I don't know of any. We have a, like, say the Filipinos, there's certain behavior and lifestyle that's normal. And it doesn't matter what it is, but if you take the lifestyle of Leyte or Bacolod, Cebu, and Manila, you would have a little bit difference there in several things. But if you hook that up to, now, whatever all that is, that would be normal for Filipino. It would not be normal probably for United States, a lot of things. And it definitely would not be normal for the Sudan. Are you familiar with the Sudan in Africa? it would not be normal down in the Caribbean islands. There may be some similarities, but it would not necessarily be normal. So what's normal is different between, a lot of times between countries and so on. So it's that's why a lot of times I know Filipinos that come to the United States, a lot of them have a very hard time because of time schedules. Now it's not as bad as it used to be, but it used to be we had to have what we called the clock, that you check in and check out and have a card punched by a time clock. Well, the younger people didn't like time clocks, so they've gotten rid of time clocks. But Filipinos had a very hard time. That's why if they go to, we got areas in Jacksonville where we have like what, 80 some thousand, I think it's 80 some thousand Filipinos in Jacksonville. Where do they go to get a job? With another Filipino, because they can't work with some Americans that well, because their lifestyle in the Philippines, they wanted to stay the same, and they can do it with working for Filipinos. So there's a whole lot of this, and so a lot of them now, and so I had a friend of mine from Luzon, and he got out of the Navy and lived in Jacksonville and had 2 daughters and a son. And boy, they are a mess. They have had problems after problems, but they can't deal. And after 10, 15 years, they still have a hard time dealing with American, what I want to say, bosses or work schedules and things. They have a very hard time with it. And the good kids, boy, they are a mess. Now I think they're getting better now because they're getting older, and so on. But so when I'm teaching this, I'm trying to teach it from what is kind of like a central area that would fit about anywhere. It should. One last thing, and so if there's a things that goes along, and there things we've talked about, and all this is breaking down. The love, the rapport, the compassion, the understanding, everything I said about it. When that breaks down, there becomes a separation. So now what this does, now it changes the image of the family. See, you had mom, dad, boy and girl. Mom, dad, son, daughter. Well, when there's a separation, now that whole thing changes. And more than likely, the kids now will establish their own agenda and their own thoughts and their own ethics and everything about them. But if that family breaks down, there is a separation. Now you've got a whole new kind of relationship. Let's say, how many relationships are in a man, a wife, and 2 children? How many relationships do you have? I can't think real quick, but you got a relationship with husband and wife. Now you have a relationship with husband, wife, and a daughter. Husband, wife, daughter, and son. Son and daughter. Son and mom. You probably got 30, 40 different relationships there. So when that daddy takes off and goes with another woman, then the whole situation and relationship in that family has changed. And sometimes it brings on a lot of difficulties. You know that as well as I do. And that it just changes everything. And I know from experience in working with some where the daddy took off and lived with somebody else, and the kids were still wanted to be with their daddy, and now they just see him about once a year. One I'm thinking about moved up, I can't think about it. You know where, shoot. What is it? Ezra? There in Manila. The daddy moved way the other side of Manila. So it's a hard thing by bus for them to get there. And they try to see their daddy. It's a mess. And then now mama hates it and gets mad at the kids if they want to go see their daddy. So this is where I came in. Sometimes it's kind of funny, but it's really sad. But he took off, and then now he's alone because the woman he left his wife for, she left him. So it's been kind of a mess, and now he's old and he's not doing so well. Okay. Now the thing about this is the worst scenario is that oftentimes this leads into a crisis, and a lot of crisis. Now, if you want more information on some of that, you have a lot of stuff to look at on the internet. There are some pretty good internet things on counseling in the Philippines, Filipino family, Filipino behavior, abnormal Filipino behavior. There's a lot of stuff, and you need to be aware, because that is, and that I found most of them are pretty realistic, and have a good account of the Filipino family. I was very impressed, and one, I can't remember his name, but I read several of his articles, and he's a Filipino, and he really has done a good job on his report. Most of them are anywhere from 5, maybe, pretty close. I would say 5 to 15 pages of information. But you can find that abnormal behavior in the Philippines, counseling in the Philippines, family life in the Philippines. I got a stack right here of papers. This is one of my last ones, and it was only 5 pages, I think. And but on leadership, and even it gives one report on Duterte. He is a narcissist, and it was written by Filipinos and a lot of things, and they proved it. The point is that I read is that they seem to know the president pretty well, and so when I think of some of the things he said and done and his behavior, he definitely is that's true account. Well, I'm going to send you here in 5 minutes after we quit, and I got the November 26th things to think about, and then there'll be some work there for you to do, and So I'll expect it, and next week you'll owe me 3 weeks of assignment. And I know it may be hard, but you haven't done anything so far. And I'm not just gonna sit here and teach and let you go, because you're gonna have to work and get some kind of experiences. It don't work very well, at least what I can contribute. But anyway, I'll shut up here and we'll begin next week. I'll get these assignments to you very quick. Now, also, I have in there on November 26th, there's a story there of a man and woman visits a counselor. He seems very impatient and rough and so on. So you need to look that over and write your assessment and your diagnosis of that situation. And every one of them, I have a situation that needs, I want your input of what you see and understand how to handle that problem. So there's 3 of them. This will be 3 of them that you owe me. And I'm serious. I'm not going to go any further if this don't get done, because you're not going to be making progress, because the rest of it gets more involved. We haven't touched anything yet. So give that some thought. And I told you in the beginning, it's going to take an hour every day to keep up and do a good job with this study, because this is extremely important for you to realize what this is all about. So that's about it for today, Wayne.
Okay,
Okay.
sounds good. Why don't we have Teo? Will you pray and have a close for class, please? Teo, will you close class? Need to unmute your mic.